Welcome to Diaspora Diary. On Diaspora Diary, we get to meet people of African descent who left their native home country to travel abroad, male, female, young or old. We don't just get to meet them, but we also kind of feel what they felt, feel their experiences, their good experiences, their bad experiences, their challenges, and their victories. That's what we get to feel or do here on Diaspora Diary. Come along with me, let's unfold it together.
Diaspora is a very unique restaurant. You know, a lot of people sometimes don't want to go home. My boss has a way of actually bringing home to the United States. So I feel Diaspora has everything in terms of food, culture. When you enter the restaurant, it's like a museum, like a Nigerian museum entirely.
So this is a Nigeria in diaspora.
How did Fola Jinadu, who a commander, an immigration lawyer, immigrated from being those two to become Diaspora? We're going to find out on today's episode. You just come along with me on this journey as we meet Fola Jinadu here in Maryland, Baltimore, United States of America, and we're going to be drinking from his fountain of wisdom. I would like to know you, would like to know your name.
Yeah, my name is Fola Jinadu. I was born in Lagos, Isaleko.
Wow.
But I grew up in England.
Wow.
Before coming to the US.
Where is your current location now?
Owens Mills, Maryland, about an hour from Washington, D.C.
What ignited your relocation from Nigeria?
From Nigeria, I had no choice.
Okay.
So it was my parents that took me to England.
Okay.
But I came to the United States by choice.
Okay.
After I finished my high school, there was nothing. I was tired of England, you know, so. And I had a friend that was going to school here, so I just came to visit and I stayed.
What appealed to you? What embraced you? What made you think you want to stay here in the United States of America?
Well, you know, seeing a whole lot of black people,
yeah.
You know, I felt at home. Unlike in England, where there's so many other colors and stuff like that I felt out of place.
Wow.
But in the United States, most especially Maryland,
yeah.
Which is about 60 to 70% black.
Wow.
So I felt so much more at home.
And this was how many years ago?
About 37 years ago.
37 years ago?
Yeah.
Wow. So have you stayed 37 years in Maryland?
No.
Okay.
Well, I joined the U.S. Merchant Marine, which is hence the
U.S. Merchant Marine.
Merchant Marine.
Yeah.
We transport military goods all over the world. So anytime they say there's a war somewhere, so we get there first before anybody else.
Wow. What made you go into this line?
Because I couldn't cook.
Because you couldn't what?
I could not cook. I needed someone to cook for me. You know, I went to boarding school in England. And when I came to the United States, I lived alone for a while and I cannot cook.
Wow.
So I needed someone to cook for me. So
I now joined the U.S.
Yes,
oh my God.
Yeah.
Let's back up. When you came to the United States of America, how did you, start to settle in? How did the country embrace you?
So it was extremely hard for me. I was actually homeless for some time.
Wow. Yeah. Homeless as in?
I had no place to go.
You were sleeping on the street?
Yes, for 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
In what part of the United States?
Maryland.
How did that happen?
Well, you know, when you stay with people,
yeah,
and eventually they get tired of you, or you won't get tired, but they will get tired of you because you are staying with them, you are not paying any bills, and eventually you overstay your welcome. And I guess I overstayed my welcome.
Wow.
But luckily I had a small car, a Volkswagen Rabbit.
Yeah.
So then I used to go to rest areas on the highways, then I would sleep there.
For 6 months?
For 6 months.
You tried find a place safe
to sleep, yes.
And you were living in your car?
In my car.
So how were you taking your shower and every other thing?
Well, I also enrolled at a community college. So
within that 6 months?
Within that 6 months.
Wow.
So I used to go to the school like 6 a.m., take a shower, you know, and then go about my day.
What was your driving force?
Well, one thing, you know, we Africans, we're very resilient people.
Yeah.
And failure was not an option for me.
Wow.
You know, I didn't come from a rich family.
Wow.
So going back either to England or going back to Nigeria was not an option for me.
Wow.
So it's do or die.
How were you paying your fees? How were you going to school? How were
Yes,
you
those are the hard things. A lot of people spend 2 years at a community college. I think I probably spent about 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Oh yeah, because you go to school, we had no papers, no nothing, and then they'll tell you to go and bring your papers, and then you stop. You start again somewhere else, you go and you stop, and you start again somewhere else. So I managed that for many, many years.
Wow.
You know, yeah.
So without papers, how were you able to survive, and how were you able to overcome that period?
Well, in those days, in the 80s, early 80s, things were relatively easier. Employers don't really ask for too many documents, and there was so many menial jobs. You know, we clean the toilets, we park cars, we do valet, we deliver pizza. You know, that was paying like $2.75 an hour.
Wow.
In those days. But we had to do what we had to do.
Wow. And you were still going to school?
Yes, sir.
And you were not hopeless?
No.
What was your encouragement?
Well, let me say it in Yoruba.
Sorry.
My grandmother wrote your many tunche. In other words, remember the son or the child of who you are. We're not a hopeless people, but when you get to where you're going, remember who you are. And I always remember that.
Wow.
So I've always tried my best to do the right thing.
Wow.
Just to remember the child of who I belong.
Wow. So, and you did not become a part of the gang, or because that's another excuse for
Yes.
some people.
Yeah.
Some people today have lost their lives.
Yes.
Some are losing, a lot are in jail even
Yes.
as we speak now. And you overcame all those periods.
Yeah.
Tell us about the days you didn't have food to eat, money to spend.
The several, you know, not even food to eat, but again, you know, I got kicked out of my apartment more than 3 times. I got evicted more than 3 times in different apartments. But once again, we cannot give up. You know, where there's a will, there is hope.
Yes,
you know, and I don't believe in the end. I believe in continuity. You know, yeah, it was tough. You know, it was tough when you cannot afford to buy food, or you cannot afford to take transportation, mainly because if you take out of that little money you have, you're not going to have enough to pay your rent, to pay gas and electric, to pay your phone bill. You know,
So you have to prioritize.
You have to prioritize, and food was not. Food was the last thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
To feed was the last
feed.
on the list.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was the first on your list?
The first on my list was always to pay my rent.
Wow.
Yeah. As difficult. No matter, we work 80 hours a week and you don't have enough money to pay your rent, because many are times that we have apartment and a lot of us are still suffering in the apartment. You know, no heat in the wintertime because we cannot afford to pay BGE, Baltimore Gas and Electric. You know, we can't afford to pay that. So therefore, it's better for you to get out of the apartment to go and work.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's warmer on the job than it is at home.
Wow. Wow. And you still said Lagos was not the option.
Nope.
England was not the option.
Nope.
But here. Did you go straight from the community college to join the US merchant?
Okay. When I was at the community college, the US government had an ad in the newspaper for United States Merchant Marine. I tried. I studied for the exam and I passed exceptionally well.
Wow.
So I got admission to the United States Merchant Marine Academy located in Maine. So it was through there that my life began to get some sort of structure, because I didn't have to worry about rent, about food, about clothes, because I was in uniform all the time. So that actually saved my life.
Between the U.S. Merchant Marine and where you are today, what were the things that happened to you? What changed you? And I mean, I want you to talk about that maybe.
Let me go back just a little bit.
Yes.
I actually got married at the age of 22. At that time, of course, I didn't know what I was doing. We were married only for 6 months. You know, I got home one day and my wife was on top of another man. So, in your house? In my house. So,
and you have not started the academy there?
I have not started the academy there. So again, I had nowhere to go because I was kicked out of the house. But again, luckily for me, I had the admission at the academy. So I called the commander over there and he said, come on, come on down.
Even before
my time, 2 months before. I had the grace of God.
Yes.
You know, so
yes.
I had all that with me. So that was what propelled me more into the academy and gave me some perspective in my life.
By the time you're getting into U.S. Marine, U.S. Merchant Marine,
yes.
Have you gotten your papers then?
Very good question. Not because I was married.
Yeah.
I got a temporary green card.
Yeah.
And because I was the one that left the marriage.
Yeah.
My temporary green card expired.
Oh yeah.
I did not renew it.
Yeah.
And they were looking for me for so many years. But because I traveled with the US government, they didn't know where to find me. Finally, when I was done with the academy, and it's time for me to work and do all of that, I got arrested.
For what?
For being out of status.
Oh, so when you were arrested, what now? Oh.
I just left, you know. So I was actually locked up in Maryland. That's why I love this state.
You have history with Maryland.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got locked up and again, picked the phone up, called Washington, D.C. And the immigration officer, I mean, the first time I see a white person that the head actually turned red.
Ooh.
Yeah, because all they was just saying, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So by the time he was done, he said, who are you? I said, I told you who I was. So they released me and my life actually changed. That arrest was actually a blessing.
Wow.
The reason why I said that was that when we're afraid, you know, let's have faith that everything will be all right. But I was afraid at the time. So within that proceedings, that deportation proceedings.
They were going to deport you?
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Because they already started the process about 2-3 years earlier.
Yeah.
You
and
know,
you were traveling with the US
I was going all over the world, yeah. So needless to say, for another 3 years, I was still in limbo, you know, for that proceedings.
Yeah.
So this is how I got into law.
You did law?
I did law.
How?
Well, because they put me in immigration proceedings, deportation proceedings.
Yes.
I hired a lawyer. By this time, I think I was like 27 years old. So I hired a lawyer. He wanted $10,000 down payment.
Wow.
I don't have $10,000. You understand?
Yes.
And if I'm smart enough to get into the academy, I'm smart enough to research on my own.
Wow.
So I fired the lawyer.
Wow.
And I represented myself, you know.
So how did you, what happened to you?
So I did a lot of research and eventually—
About immigration?
Oh yeah.
So now—
I studied a lot.
So wait, did you become a lawyer?
Yes.
You became a lawyer?
I became a lawyer.
How long did that take you?
I studied, the only thing I concentrated on was immigration law. So there's this thing they call special dispensation from the US government. If you take an exam, and if you are qualified, you can now act as a lawyer and represent other people only in immigration law. Okay. And I did that because when I did my own case, I saw a lot and I was given, I actually gained my citizenship in court.
What?
Oh yes. So, and even the judge apologized. I'm sorry on behalf of the United States government. We apologize because I went to court in my uniform. So I did that, and then eventually I opened an immigration law firm, inside the immigration building, downtown Baltimore.
Oh my God! The one that was meant to be deported out of the country.
That's right.
By the immigration.
Yes.
Now you defended yourself.
Yes.
By doing your own research.
Yes.
In court as a lawyer.
Yes.
And then you got an office in the immigration building.
That's right.
Open your own law firm.
That's right.
So now you're not just a U.S. merchant marine. What was your rank before you?
I finished as a lieutenant, and later on I retired as a commander.
As a retired commandant, now you started a law firm. What was the experience like?
This is where I really got to know myself. I opened a non-profit organization.
Okay.
It's called Immigrant Assistance Services.
Okay.
And the purpose of that was to help people like me, people who have no money, to defend themselves.
But have good intention.
So I did that for about 4 or 5 years. But then I wasn't making any money. I had to make money too. Because as a non-profit, if you go to a typical law firm, if they charge you $5,000, you come to mine, we charge you $1,500.
Because it's non-profit.
It's a non-profit. So by law, we cannot charge so much. But at the same time, I've got to make a living as well.
Yes.
So I did that for several years. The last case, and the reason why I left that place, the last case I did was representing a guy from South America. He was going to be deported. However, while I was defending him, I was also crying. Because I knew the case very well, very well. So after that, the judge granted him stay because we were passionate about defending him and stuff like that. And after that, I said, enough is enough.
You're done.
I'm done.
I've known Mr. Fola for almost 10 years now. One thing about him is his integrity is just paramount.
He's such a great man with a fantastic vision.
Where did you go from there?
I bought a ticket, round-trip ticket to Nigeria.
Why?
I do not know.
By this time, you already have your citizenship.
I've got everything.
This was like how many years now since you got to America now that you're buying a round-trip ticket?
Probably about 28 years.
You spent 28 years in America?
Yes, yeah.
And you don't know where or who you are?
Yeah.
You just wanted to go back to Nigeria after 28 years?
Yeah. Yeah, so because I know in Yoruba they say Tiwaju Obashelo,
in other words, if you can proceed,
you go back. You go back to the beginning, to your roots. So I went back to Nigeria. I've been away from Nigeria for almost 40 years. You know, so when I went back to Nigeria again, it's like starting all over. I asked a doctor friend of mine, what can someone do in this country? By that I mean in Nigeria. And he said, well, you can either be selling food, selling clothes, or have a hotel in Nigeria. You know, and all three I couldn't do. But one thing that I know, as soon as we get into the plane, your mouth starts salivating for suya.
Oh,
you understand?
Yes.
So I knew that. Wow. So when I was in Nigeria, I used to go to suya, you know, those little suya spots on the street corners and stuff like that. I would take a couple of my friends. We spend about 5,000 naira just eating, and about within three months in that process, then I noticed that wow, people come, you know, they're rushing, and they leave, and we continue to eat, and they come again.
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria. Rich, poor, walk, drive, anything, they came. So now, one thing that I also know now, when I say I reached a situation where, what I call now self-actualization. I know who I am. I have discovered who I am basically through the hardship that I went through, through that deportation, through that defending people in immigration court. So I know I'm a people person. That was when I discovered what I would like to do.
And which was what?
Bringing people together.
Wow.
It wasn't.
You know,
Suya is a byproduct.
It is.
Of what I do. My goal is to bring people together. To connect.
Network.
That's it. Thank you. Yes, that's it. So then I came back to the United States.
How many years did you stay in a year when you went?
6 months. It wasn't years. 6 months. So now coming back to Maryland, I came back with zero.
Zero.
It was like starting all over again. I was lucky because I already bought a house in Owens Mills. So
before you left,
I bought the house in 1999.
Wow. Were you working with the U.S. Merchant Marine then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you bought your house?
When I bought my house.
Wow.
Yeah. One thing that I say I will never do is to drive a cab, because a lot of us are very proud people. And that is something that once you know who you are, that pride, you need to discard it somewhere. So I was still proud. I would never drive a cab, you know. So I kept on looking for jobs in law firms, being immigration attorney, being immigration specialist.
But you are staying in your own house?
Yeah, I'm staying in my own house, which I rented out.
When you traveled?
Yes, I was still renting it because there was no income coming in. But luckily, I was living in my basement. So I rented out the whole upstairs. And even till today, I'm still sleeping in my basement, although I have my whole house to myself. I'm just used to it, you know. So now I had no money, no nothing. My tenant already left. That's how I became a cab driver. Now, because now I know what I want. I know I want to open a restaurant. You understand? But there is no money. So now...
So you have a purpose now?
Yeah, I have a purpose now. I have direction.
Direction.
Yes.
So you just need, whatever means is to your end.
To my end, yes. So I used to drive that cab 22 hours a day. I'm not kidding you. Even when at night, when I'm resting, I don't go into the house. I will back up the car to the house. I will stay inside the car. So in case somebody needs a cab, I'll wake up, and I'll go. So while I was doing that, I got a job in Columbia, Maryland, with a company as their immigration specialist. So all their foreign, so they gave me that job from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. You know, they are paying $50 an hour. I was still driving my cab. So I would wear my suit in my cab, go to work. So as soon as I finish, take off my tie, do everything, drive my cab. Because again, I was no longer embarrassed. I was no longer shy about anything. I was no longer feeling inadequate because I have a degree already. I have multiple degrees already. But this time, the difference is I know who I am and I have direction. I know what I want to do. So within 8 months, I saved about $80,000. So that $80,000 was where Suya Sport got started.
What's Suya Sport?
Suya Sport is a Nigerian restaurant where we in the diaspora, a place where we want to congregate and eat grilled meat, chicken.
Just as it were in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Now you created a place for it in Maryland.
In Maryland, yes.
Exactly as it were.
Exactly.
And there was nothing like that in Maryland.
No.
Wow.
And we opened in 2015. It was hard. It was excruciating, painful, because again, I don't know how to cook. But
no, I'm wondering.
Yes.
You don't know how to cook, you don't like to cook. Now you're opening a restaurant.
A restaurant, yes. Because I believe in one thing. Even if you don't know how, try. You don't have to be perfect in what you do. Just start. As soon as you start, you will find that the word that I use is the heavens conspire into helping you.
Once you start.
Once you start, you will see different doors just opening like that. Once you just make that move. Just make that move. It does not, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be an expert in that field, but make the move and continue to improve yourself. When I opened the restaurants, then at this time, again, no car. The day we opened the restaurant was the day I went and delivered the cab back to the company. It's been 1 year.
You're not driving again.
Exactly 1 year. So I'm not doing this. Because a lot of us will shoot ourselves in the foot. You start a restaurant is like a baby. You have to care for this thing almost 24/7. You cannot do it as a part-time. You must do it full-time. So I returned the car. And one of very good friend of mine, he lives in Odenton, Maryland, which is about 35 minutes from where the restaurant is. So now I leave my house, I go and stay with him because he has a car. I don't. So I will sleep in his house, I will drop him off, I'll work in the morning so that I can use the car to go and buy supplies and this and that. And by 5 o'clock or 6, I'll go pick him up. I will close the restaurant, I'll go pick. So I managed like that for like another 6 months until I was able to buy a car. So that was how we got started. I was extremely scared because yes, when people hear Suya Sport, the line was round the corner. Why? Because they know what is suya. However, they've never tried yours before, so there will be a lot of people. That is not where the business starts. The business starts maybe 3 or 4 weeks later. If you are now seeing the same faces coming back, then you know you have something. And one thing I made sure was that the taste. I don't know how to cook, but I know good food, good meat. So I made sure we don't compromise on the of the ingredients and everything, you know. And then the quality of our restaurant, the cleanliness and everything. That is what I want. And that's what I believe in. If you see the way I act, as soon as I come to the store, I go to every customer, is the food okay? What is the problem? Is there anything we can change? Is it warm enough? Is it this? So I get that feedback from them and then I improve on it. And we've been doing that consistently for 7 years.
7 years. Now, are you fulfilled doing what you're doing?
No.
You are not yet fulfilled?
No, we haven't even started.
Oh, wow.
The journey has been long and we're just getting started. Because 7 years is building the brand. So my goal is to have that word, Suya Sport, on the mouth of average American. We're going to be in Houston, we're going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, we're going to be in Washington, D.C., in New York, you know, basically where a lot of our people are located. And we will now also try and change our menu so that we are not only serving Nigerians, we're serving Americans. So we will give them jollof rice, fried rice, pounded yam, all the stuff that we love to eat back home. And
right here in America.
Right here in America.
Just the same taste that
the same taste, yes sir, yes sir.
I'd like to ask this question. This place, this place is so beautiful.
Yes.
It keeps, like, you keep reinventing.
Yes.
But there's one thing that is particular about this place. It is the fact that once you enter into this place, it looks like you are no more in America.
That's right.
Like you're in Nigeria.
That is the whole idea.
The idea.
Yes.
The artworks on the wall. Where did this artistic impression, where did it come from? Did you put this all together?
I put all this together myself. Yes, everything.
And like, it wasn't like this when you started 7 years ago.
No.
So that means from time to time, you bring in
I add more. Yes, yeah, that's right.
A man that came hopeless, that was going to be taken back to Nigeria, is now a man that even the United States government, they are celebrating you for being here.
Yes.
Because you are driving a lot of traffic.
That's right.
Even to this part of Maryland
and
to this part of America.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. This is such a wealth of information that I know is going to empower some, encourage some, strengthen some. I mean, give light to some other people, give hope to the hopeless, those that are just started. And they're going to avert many things that you probably ran into as a mistake because of what you have shared with us. So thank you so much, sir. Commander
Jinadu.
Fola Jinadu, lawyer Fola Jinadu,
janitor Fola Jinadu.
That's another good thing I saw. I see you sweeping, I see you carrying plates, I see you cleaning the table. You don't even see yourself as big up there. I've got people, yet you have people that are supposed to be doing this. You walk in, you were greeting everybody that are seated. I mean, you have that relationship. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Now, I am ready to leave Maryland.
You are ready to read after 37 years.
Let me tell you why.
Tell me.
Because during the struggle, I promised myself I will not leave this Maryland until I make $1 million or more.
So you are ready to go?
I'm ready to leave. What you're doing
so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure meeting
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you. Thank you for your time and attention, and keep up the great work.
Amen.
Wow. Fola Jinadu of Diaspora here in Maryland, United States of America. What a beautiful episode of Diaspora Diary today. I cannot forget this episode because there's so much that poured out of Fola Jinadu, the Chief Executive Officer of Diaspora here in Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, United States of America. Until I see you on another wonderful and interesting episode of Diaspora Diary, I am Prophet Jazzy. Stay focused. Peace. I am out of here. God bless.